God'll get you for that one.
Maude is owned by Shout Factory.
God'll Get You for That, Walter is produced for entertainment purposes only.
Sponsored in part by Findlays Friendly Appliances. Hello, darlings, and welcome to another episode of God'll Get You for That, Walter.
He certainly will.
Yes, he will. My name is Tom Catt, and I am joined by the ever-fabulous, the ever-jovial, the ever-delicious Toni Homeperm.
Oh, stop.
Okay, fine, I'll stop.
No, don't stop.
Oh, my goodness gracious. What an episode we went over today.
Yes, I love this episode because I just love Florida. I loved Florida.
How do you not love Esther Roll?
I just loved her.
What if I need to find out if she ever won any Emmys when she did Good Times.
We have to research.
I think we have to research that.
That's
Today's episode of Maude that we went over was Florida's Problem, Season 1, Episode 18, originally aired February 19th. 13th.
February 13th.
Well, thank you for correcting me. I put down 19th.
I live to correct you.
Literally, job description. Correct Tom Catt. February 13th, 1973. And honestly, what a great episode.
Yes, it was.
This was our first introduction to Florida's husband, Henry. Which later changed when they started Good Times. They changed. And still played by the same actor, John Amos.
Mm-hmm.
John Amos played Henry Evans. Later became James Evans.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny, when I posted some videos to TikTok, people were like, why was Florida calling James Henry? And that was the original name that they had intended for him.
That's why, yes.
I honestly don't know how that, like, in the 70s when, like, you would have your initial show, and then you would start your own show. Like, the process behind that, just very interesting to me. Very interesting.
Yeah, I'm sure there was some reason for the name change.
Had to have been a reason.
But, I don't know. Maybe that's something we'll research for the next episode.
Pencil that in. Pencil that in. Why they changed Henry to James. So the episode begins with Maude not sleeping well.
Right.
She comes in like a tornado, as she always often does.
She always does.
White
tornado.
Tornado. Appropriate.
She's the white tornado.
She's the white tornado.
She's the white tornado, which...
Carol asks, how did you sleep? And she goes, not well. And she pours her coffee or she gets her breakfast, and then she sits at the table, and then she turns to Walter. So the three of them are all sitting at the table now. And she turns to Walter and she goes, I cannot believe how loudly you snore.
Snores.
He almost, blew off his mustache,
yes,
you said?
Yes.
And that's a recurring joke. We obviously know that Walter obviously snores very loudly.
Yeah.
And then
I'm a bad snorer.
Well, you have sleep apnea.
I have sleep apnea, but yeah, I mean,
it's also possible that at that time they probably didn't have a diagnosis for sleep apnea.
Yeah, I don't think so.
So it's entirely possible that Walter could have suffered from that.
It could be.
But they won't write that in because this is a sitcom and it's not a medical documentary.
No, of course not.
So at that point,
Florida comes in like a black tornado. Yes.
And that is actual dialogue.
Yes.
This is language that was used in the episode.
Yes.
And
Florida is the one who referred to herself
as a black tornado.
Yeah.
She just comes in a huff, puts all of her stuff away, even as Maude is like saying, hello, Florida, it's so good to see you. Florida just immediately rushes out the door, and the door...
She doesn't even say anything.
Doesn't say anything.
Yeah.
Not a word.
She was like very uncharacteristically...
angry.
Yes.
Uncharacteristically angry.
Yes.
And Florida, Maude, Carol, and Walter are just sitting at the breakfast table, very confused.
Yeah. And
they start questioning, like, what could have possibly happened? And that's when Florida enters saying, don't worry, I always come in like a black tornado.
Yes.
So, Maude, Walter, and Carol then get up from the table and they go into the living room, which is where Florida is putting all of her stuff away. And Maude is just asking her, what happened? What happened? What's going on? And Florida proceeds to say that it's just her celebrating foul mood day.
National Foul
Foul Mood
National
Day.
Foul Mood Day.
Some people celebrate Valentine's Day. Some people, what was the other one? There was another line that she said.
I don't remember what the other holidays were.
But she said some people celebrate Valentine's Day, some people celebrate another holiday.
Right.
Me, I'm celebrating National Foul Mood Day. Whoopee!
Whoopee. Yes.
So, Maude immediately does not want to have that awkward conversation with Florida, which, very uncharacteristic as Maude usually, can never keep her mouth shut.
Yeah.
So she initially says, Walter, you're so much more diplomatic.
Right.
You're so much more. You're such a thorough thinker. You go have the conversation with her.
Very un-Maude-like.
Very
for
un-Maude-like.
Maude to say.
Unfortunately, it just does not work.
And she tells him, and she's saying, to be compassionate, but if you hurt her feelings,
I'll rip your heart out.
Rip your heart out.
That's right. And if you hurt her feelings, I'll rip your heart out.
And Walter refuses.
Because, at that point, Maude insulted him.
Yeah.
And also, I don't think he wants to deal with the problem.
He didn't want to get
involved.
Because
Walter, throughout most of Florida's tenure, did not want to become emotionally invested in the help.
Right.
Which at the time was sometimes what you did.
Right.
It's not like Maude who, becomes best friends with the help and becomes gal pals with them.
Mm-hmm.
And, Walter tries to keep, tries to not, I don't even want to say it's a racial thing. He just keeps his distance from emotionally investing himself in his maid.
Wait, and then also that was very apropos for male behavior at the time.
Very much so.
Not to be emotional. And,
very much so.
Yeah. So he takes the newspaper and he
goes upstairs to the library.
So he's going to the library.
He's going to the library, which I don't think there's a library upstairs.
It's a euphemism.
Is it a euphemism?
Yes, the library is when he says librage, it's a euphemism.
For the bathroom. These are things you don't learn in school, kids.
There was your SAT word of the week. Euphemism.
I love euphemisms. I literally live and breathe them.
Those are great drag queen name. Euphemism.
Free drag name, kids. Euphemism.
YUFFA-MISM. Euphemism.
MISSM.
Euphemism. M-I-S...
Or M-I-Z-Y-M.
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 That might be pronounced as my-zyme. I don't know. We'll work on it.
Moving right along.
We'll work on it.
Moving gaily forward. So then, once Walter goes upstairs to the quote-unquote library, Maude turns her attention to Carol.
Yes.
And Carol's like, Mother, this is something that is obviously going on in Florida's world. Do not be involved.
Yes.
Carol is once again the voice of reason.
Voice of reason, as usual.
Very logical thinking.
And is insisting that, Florida is entitled to her privacy.
Yep. Which makes complete and total sense.
Yes. And Maude proceeds to lay a Jewish mother's guilt trip on Carol.
Carol, I gave you life. This is the first time I ever asked you to do anything for me outside of toilet training. And you didn't do that either.
But, of course, she's not getting her way.
Carol goes to work.
Carol leaves.
Carol has to go to work. So, Maude goes into the kitchen, and Florida immediately was already smoking on a cigarette.
Yes, she's smoking a cigarette. No, was she? No, I don't think she was. She wasn't when she first goes in. Maude goes in, and then she starts apologizing.
Oh, that's right, because Florida's putting groceries away.
Right.
And Maude starts apologizing, and Florida's like, why are you apologizing? Maude, of course, goes, for whatever it was that I did to you to cause you this pain.
Right. And Maude is saying, she understands that she's got a private life. And she's saying, but, usually you're as happy as a lark.
Happy as a lark. And have you ever... I've never seen a happy lark either.
Never seen a happy... Well, sometimes I see the sparrows in the bird bath.
Oh, well, we love a happy sparrow.
They look, fairly happy.
Oh, God.
I hope they're happy.
I love ornithological happiness.
Yes. We've got 2 SAT words today. Kids, you got to be writing this stuff down. This is gold we're giving you, okay?
You're going to see these words pop up someplace.
There will be a written exam at the end of the episode.
There will be a pop quiz.
There
will be a pop quiz, kids.
Pop quiz. So that's when Florida starts smoking.
That's when Florida starts smoking.
Yes. Which, is like a shock.
Very much a shock.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm 90% positive that Esther Roll, because I know B. Arthur smoked.
Yeah.
I know that B. Arthur smoked. Actually, she was a very heavy smoker back then. And then I think it was after Golden Girls that she sort of stopped, or she slowed down her smoking, just because it began to affect her health.
Well, back then in the early 70s.
Oh, everyone was a pack a day. Everyone was a pack a day smoker.
Everyone smoked.
Everyone was smoking.
My mother wasn't a smoker at that time, but my father, he still was. She had been a smoker and stopped. Ended up starting again later.
Both grandmothers in my family smoked. My aunts on my mother's side smoked. My mother smoked for a little bit. I'm smoking now. I'm trying to not smoke a lot. You think this voice happens by accident?
Well, there is that. You need to protect those vocal cords.
I do. I need to protect my vocal cords.
I'm gonna have to crack the whip on you.
Please and thank you.
I'm gonna have to crack the whip.
So
Maude suggests to Florida, has she seen her doctor? Because
has she been to the Obgyn? Because maybe Florida's going through her change of life.
She's suggesting that maybe it's, she's
menopause.
At our time of life, as Maude puts it.
I love the way that Florida, the writers for that one came back at her so quickly.
Yes.
So Florida ends up saying, "What do you mean?
Yeah.
You don't know the difference. You don't know how old I actually am." And it's sort of a play on the whole black don't crack mythos, which it is a very true statement.
Yes.
I do believe that would be considered a very
you look
statement.
at some of the very famous actresses like Cecily Tyson.
Angela Bassett.
You know what I'm watching right now? We're binge watching it. I don't know.
Gabrielle Union. Gabrielle Union. They're stunning.
Yeah.
These are stunning women.
But we've been watching CSI Miami.
Okay.
And the actress who played the medical examiner, Condi, I think it's Condi Alexander. Mm-hmm. Now, when they were doing the show back then, which was 2013, around then, she was late 40s and beautiful. And I just saw recent pictures of her now. Now it's 20 years later. The woman is in her 60s, and she's still stunning.
Yeah.
Stunning. And you can tell there's been no, work or fillers or any... I mean, if there is, you cannot tell.
I remember watching an episode of RuPaul's talk show during the 90s. Mm-hmm. And it was, I think, in 95 or 94... And he had B. Arthur on as a guest. And as a surprise, he also brought on Esther Roll. Mm-hmm. And B just looked so much older than Esther Roll did. Esther came on stage. Yeah, her hair was gray, but she still looked the same.
Yeah.
I think she was also wearing glasses at the time. Mm-hmm. But I mean, virtually the same.
Yeah.
And that's what? 70, 80, that was almost 20 years after.
Right. Right.
So
well, I mean, speaking, scientifically, having more melanin in your skin is better for your skin. I mean,
better for your complexion.
Yes, it really is.
And it has more elasticity, not elasticity. Collagen.
Collagen. Okay. Yes.
It has more collagen.
We as raw
pasty
chicken,
white people,
raw chicken color. We don't have the benefit of that. And I have to avoid the sun at all costs. But of course,
laughing.
Of course, no matter how melanated your skin is, you should always be careful of UV rays. So whether your melanin levels are natural, everybody should put that sunscreen on, kids.
SPF 50 or bust.
Yes. So you should still take care of it.
So you can't tell how old we are. That just kills you.
Right. Right.
So after that point,
that Maude starts to get a little bit hysterical with, saying like, you can't leave.
you can't leave. Florida's saying, I could swear we fought a war about this and our side won.
Ms. Lincoln.
Oh my God, calling her Miss Lincoln. Well, fine. You don't. I'm not going. Don't leave. Just don't leave.
Right.
Maude is literally pleading
Yeah.
pleading with Florida not to leave. And then after Maude and Florida had their little banter, with Florida ending up by saying, "Well, thank you, Miss Lincoln."
Right.
It finally comes out that Henry is causing her these emotional stressors.
Right. Well, actually, before they get to that, Maude is telling Florida, "Now I want you to look me in the eye,
exactly,
and tell me what's going on." And Maude tells Florida, she says, "I love you."
That's right.
Remember,
Maude told Florida, "I love you," and Florida's just like, "No, don't say that.
Don't say that. Don't say that."
My husband tells me he loves me, and yet he goes right on and aggravates me.
Right. And so Maude is insisting that Florida look her in the eye
and tell her what's going
on. And
Florida's looking at her mouth.
At her mouth. She likes a moving. Was it likes a moving target?
I like practicing with a moving target.
And she's telling Maude, it's like if you make me cry, I will never forgive you.
And then Florida looks into Maude's eyes and just breaks down, saying,
crying.
"Here it comes, and I'm never going to forgive you."
Yes.
And I think that was like one of the first times that Florida actually broke down crying.
Yes.
With Maude.
Yeah, I mean, she's always had a hard shell.
Very much a hard shell. And this is like the first time we were able to get beneath that.
Yeah.
So Florida breaks down in Maude's arms,
and she, comes out that Henry is tired of her working for white people, although he actually
used the term honky.
And Florida is like, she doesn't understand how he's turned into Superfly.
Well, it comes out because Florida says he's a fireman. And he's also now working as a cabbie.
As a cab driver at night.
So he's working all of these hours just so that Florida does not work in a white household.
Yes. Well, that's what Henry's said, is that he doesn't want her working, in a white household.
Yeah.
That's what he said. But we'll find out later, it really has nothing to do with the race of the people.
Has nothing to do with.
But we'll get to that.
This is a very poignant episode that I think would do well to be re-aired today.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So we hear the doorbell.
Yes, we hear the doorbell, and it is John Amos as Henry Evans. And it's always interesting because Florida, like Maude tells Florida, stay in here and have a good cry. It'll do you some good.
Right.
She goes out, opens the door, and says, "Oh, you must be Florida's husband."
Yes.
And Henry corrects her, saying, "The right way to address me is Florida's my wife."
Right.
And very just that language, that use of language, and that use of possessiveness. Very, very prominent in the 70s.
Yeah.
And I mean, even today, you'll hear people say, George Clooney's wife does X, Y, and Z.
Yes.
I think she was a prime minister? Not a prime minister.
She was
correspondent with the UN?
Something like that. I mean, she worked in didn't she work for Hillary Clinton as something very high level?
I think so, yeah.
I mean, really, quite a bit more prominent than just being an actor.
That's right.
But that's not how she. But
that's not how they addressed her.
No,
that's not how some of these.
She's George Clooney's wife. I mean, forget everything she did. There was recently this woman who was a 3-time Olympic gold medalist.
Yes,
and I guess she's from Chicago, and her husband is on one of the Chicago sports teams. I don't know diddly squat about sports.
Sport ball. It's sport ball.
I don't know.
That's all it is. It's sport
the paper referred to her as, wife of, so and so Chicago yada yada sports team, and it's and somebody said, there's a typo. It should be, her name, 3-time Olympic gold medalist, and so is her husband.
Yep.
It was like, here she's had this incredible accomplishment.
It's in that language.
Yeah.
That we still have a lot of the sexist problems that we have today.
Yeah, all of her accomplishments are diminished by what her husband does. Even though what she did is
overshadows whatever he has done.
Is quite more prominent than what he's done. So yeah.
So it was just that part always stuck to me.
Yes.
So at that point,
Florida I have something here about Here Come the Judge.
Florida enters.
Yes, right. Florida
enters, and he goes, "Yeah, just like I was telling Mrs. Findlay, here come the judge."
Here come the judge.
Which was popular in.
Flip Wilson always did that.
I was going to say Flip Wilson on Laugh-In.
Flip Wilson.
I'm pretty sure it was Laugh-In.
Was it on Laugh-In? I think
so.
I remember that. Yeah, I just remember that part. Here comes.
I'm pretty
the
sure
judge.
Flip. It was Laugh-In where Flip originally guest starred, and then they gave him his own show.
Yeah,
I think
he had.
Flip Wilson had his own show.
He had his own show for a long time, and my mother and father, they loved Flip Wilson. We never missed that show. And of course, my favorite thing was when he did Geraldine. When he dressed in drag.
Of course.
And she had her boyfriend Killer.
Of course.
You have to come meet me in the booth, in the back, in the corner, in the dark. That's what she always said.
Wow.
And she had her boyfriend Killer. But oh my God. Yeah, right? Makes so apropos that my favorite thing about Flip Wilson
was that he did drag.
Well,
one of my favorite things about Milton Berle, despite how awful he was before he dressed in drag.
Awful. Yes.
Yeah, Milton Berle was not.
Yes.
He was not a nice person.
And
Very sexist, very homophobic, very racist.
Yeah, but rumored to be very well endowed.
Who told you that?
It's like a Hollywood, if you look up like Hollywood.
Oh, almost like Cary Grant and
no.
An affair with?
No, not about affair. Well, Milton Berle, he had an affair with Marilyn Monroe.
That doesn't surprise me. Who didn't have an? I had an affair with Marilyn Monroe.
It was rumored that he was very
gifted
in that
I
area.
would never say well endowed. I always say gifted.
Gifted?
I will always say gifted.
Okay. All right. You're entitled.
I am entitled.
I'll give you that gift.
Oh, that's dirty.
Oh, I know. I wish I was gifted like that.
Well.
Oh, well. So, Henry does not want her ironing for white people.
Yes.
And,
Maude goes on one of her...
Well, no.
Before that,
Florida is, tells him that he's abusing her.
Yeah. And he's like, wait, where are you getting this word abuse from?
Yes.
If you think I'm hassling you, say I'm hassling you. And then Florida goes, man, you're hassling
me.
And he goes, don't you talk to me like that, woman.
Right. That's when they go into the match routine.
Yes.
So,
No, I think before that, Maude goes on one of her tirades saying, here we are all people color.
Oh, yes, she did bring that up.
And that was when Henry called her a comedian.
Yes.
Which makes complete and total sense. Because, even in today's world, there is the obvious apparency. Is that a word?
I don't think so.
I don't think apparency is
no.
There's, it is apparent that there is obviously a disparity between the races.
Yeah.
So,
that professor, Jane, what's her name?
Oh, we always forget her name. I can't even go back until I know.
I don't know. I forget the name of the professor. Jane. I keep wanting to say Jane.
I want to say Jane Austen,
and I want to say Jane Alexander. But it's not. But that famous professor,
who did the blue-eyed, brown-eyed study.
She has said, people they like to say, oh, well, I'm not racist. She said, no. She said, you are racist. She said, we're all racist. This is a racist country. We're brought up to be racist. Everything you see, TV, radio, ads. It's all racist. Yeah. But until we acknowledge it, you can't stop being a racist. And she said,
because we all benefit from systemic. White people benefit from systemic racism.
Yes, and and she has said, I tell myself every day, I'm a racist, and she said every day I have to make deliberate, conscious choices not to engage in racist behavior.
Yep.
She said because that's how I was brought up. She said my parents were racist, my family were racist, my teachers were racist, like everyone was and that's how it is for everyone.
As a matter of fact, we mentioned the word honky in this episode. The word is literally mentioned by term.
Yes,
and it was also featured in the episode "Mixed Blessings on the Golden Girls," where Dorothy's youngest son Michael was marrying an older black woman.
Yep.
And it's interesting. One of the arguments that I see happen a lot is when white people say, or when white people call out reverse racism.
Yeah.
Reverse racism does not exist.
No.
Reverse racism does not exist. There is no way for a black person to be racist against a white person. A black person can show prejudice. A black person can discriminate against a white person, but there is no way a black person can be racist towards a white person.
Right.
That is definitely my feeling on it. I don't know what I'm pretty sure you share the same opinion.
Yes.
But it's definitely a conversation that has come up a lot. And I feel like it's one of those. I feel like it's one of those arguments that people will start to almost like a red herring.
Yeah.
Where people will use it to not focus on the actual argument.
Yes. Well, I get annoyed when somebody will be saying, "Well, I believe that all races matter." It's like, but they don't. You see, that's the thing.
The problem.
The problem is, they should, but realistically, they don't all matter.
Correct.
That's the issue. So until all colors, all ethnicities matter.
Here we are, all people color.
Yeah. I mean, it's great to say that, and kumbaya and hallelujah.
Doesn't mean it's going to be effective in the corporate world.
But in the real world, it's not how it is.
Even in the episode "The Slump Lord," where Mr. George Washington Carver said, we got some of our own doing that. That's progress.
Yeah.
And seeing that comment made, comments in this episode, comments made and lines read in these episodes, they're not only a sign of those times; they're a sign of the times that we're presently going through.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so.
It's just it's fascinating how the more things change, the more things stay the same.
Very true.
So after that, yes, then they go into the whole
match
thing.
Match game.
I would love to impersonate Brett Butler and you as Charles Nelson Riley. I think that would be hilarious, or vice versa. I'm giving you ideas, aren't I?
Yeah, of course. You always do.
Great.
You always do.
So, Holden won match. And the match game basically goes, Henry's holding up one match, and then he puts it behind his back, and then it says, I'm saying there's two. So now I'm holding two matches. So Florida's like, you're tricking me.
Yes.
They're having this back and forth.
He's trying to get her,
it's a bet.
Yeah, if I can prove it's two matches, then you'll come home with me. And she's like, no, forget it. You're trying to trick me. You're trying to trick me.
So he puts his hand behind his back and comes back still with one match in his hand, saying, however, that there is two. So Florida goes, no, you're tricking me. There's one match in your hand. He says, but what if I'm wrong? Then she goes, okay. And he goes, I'm wrong. Let's get out of here.
Right.
So it was still his way of still getting his way without getting his way.
Has to get his way. That's when Maude comes back in, and I wrote here that she gives them the love speech.
True love grows from the soils passionately expressed. I'm pretty sure that is. That could be a very, very loose way of
loose interpretation.
Loose interpretation. Thank you. True love grows from the soils passionately expressed. And then he says, I think, save that jive talk for. What did he say? Woman's Daily.
Was that what he said?
I know he said something.
Something like
something that way.
To that effect. Yes. So he then tells Florida he's going to be back at 9
He's going to work and he's going to come back at 9 p.m. WPT. Was that ever used in your home?
Never heard that.
Really?
I never heard of that. This is the first time I'm learning.
Honestly, it wasn't until I started watching one that I figured out what WPT and CPT time were.
Well, they explain it.
I mean, it was the same thing. Hillary, when she was trying to get the black vote, she would say that she had hot sauce in her purse.
Oh, I don't remember that.
Oh, you don't remember that?
I don't remember that.
Oh, I think it was one of the things that honestly cost her the election. Because, when you're trying to, not pander, when you're trying to pander to the audience that you're trying to, get your vote for, you do things that you may or may not really believe. Yeah,
I have to admit I do love hot sauce.
I mean, but I would never say on national. I would never say on a radio station. Right. Oh yeah, I totally carry it in my purse. Yeah, never know when you're gonna
That's like I'm down with the homies.
Oh my god!
Right? It's like when.
But Hillary used
the white person trying to be hip and cool, and it's like no.
Isn't it amazing how more often than not, the culture that black people create gets so often used as what is cool and what is hip.
That's been going. Look at Elvis Presley.
For years, it's been going on.
Elvis Presley and all those singers from that era.
Correct.
That took songs by black artists and turn them
turn them into hits.
Into hits.
That was one of my favorite musicals. Dreamgirls does it perfectly. The Cece and Curtis create "Got Me a Cadillac Car," and then it's appropriated
by the white group,
by the white singer.
Yes,
and he has a hit record with it.
Right.
So the more things change, the more things stay the same.
Yes, very true. Yes. Cultural appropriation.
It's called cultural appropriation. That is cultural appropriation.
Which sometimes, though, I feel like tends to go a little bit overboard. I mean, I see it. I do see it a lot happening, like with Spirit Halloween and having the Native American costumes. No, Native American culture is not a costume. Right.
Do not dress up as Pocahontas on Halloween. Right. Please don't. Do not wear the garb of a Native American tribe and claim it as your own. That's just not no.
But here's one thing I've seen: when a drag queen has, I think it happened to Raven. She did her makeup and she was looked very tan, and she called out. They were saying she was doing blackface.
Because if you see pictures of Raven when she started doing drag, it's the same thing with Ariana Grande. If you see Ariana Grande in one of her earlier
pasty whiter than me, auburn hair.
Yep.
And now is all of a sudden, what is she Latina or something?
They use a lot of people who use the excuse, and it definitely I have taken note of it as well. When people say, "Oh, well, she's Italian," and I'm like, that's not how it works.
Yeah, no,
that's not how it works. Please stop.
Yeah.
Which, it's important that we bring this up because it happens a lot across the seas. I know a lot of Russian cosplayers. I know a lot of Italian cosplayers who will darken their skin tone for the sake of the outfit.
Really?
And for the sake of the costume. And they will get called out on it by a lot of people. And they'll use the excuse, "Oh, well, I'm Russian, I'm foreign. We don't have the same history that you do in America." And it's but you're still putting on something that is not who you are.
Right.
And, I've also seen that argument come up a lot when it comes to drag. Well, you're not a woman. Why are you dressing as a woman? And then this whole... It just becomes this very big discussion that nobody wants to have.
Right. Yes.
So it's just these conversations are still happening. The conversations about racial, oh my god, I had the word and then it just right out of my head.
Racial, well, we were talking about cultural appropriation.
Yes, these conversations about racial disparity, sex disparity, financial disparity, all of these conversations are still happening. It doesn't matter how long ago they were, they are still happening, they are still going to happen. Whew.
Very true. Very true.
So he says, I'm going to be home, I'm going to be back here, WPT, which means white people time.
White people time.
Which means 9 o'clock sharp, on the dot. And then Florida says, if he had meant, he said he was going to be here at WBT, that means white people time on the dot.
Right.
As opposed to CPT, which means colored people time, which means shuffle on in whenever you want.
Right. That was the dialogue.
That was the dialogue from the episode. That was the dialogue from the episode. Just so we're clear on that.
So we're clear. Just so we're clear.
We dot our I's and cross our T's.
And now Maude says something to Florida.
He's something right out of the Dark Ages.
Yeah.
Nothing racially intended.
Nothing racially intended. meaning the
medieval
Dark
times.
Ages.
The medieval times.
Yes.
It's always interesting when they try to point out things that happened. Like, there was an episode where Vivian was dating someone that was 70 years old. Now, 70 years old in the 70s, that's 1900.
Yeah.
That's 1900 to 1910.
Right.
And it's just interesting to see those jokes and how they've not only aged, but just to understand that in the 70s, there were people that were older. There were people that were born in the 1900s. There were some people born in the 1800s.
Yes.
And, it's just fascinating to me. It's just fascinating to me.
Time
fascinates me, even though it is a flat circle.
I know. Then
Walter comes downstairs.
Comes down from the library.
And Maude is pleading with him, I need you home. I need you here to talk to Henry. Because another man's opinion will probably do better it's better to have two men talking to each other than for a woman and a man to talk to each other about this. But Walter is once again adamant, it's not our place. I'm not going to touch that argument with a 10-foot pole. It is between Florida and her husband.
And now does Maude use the term jive talk?
Yes. Yes, she does.
Because and Florida points out to her that she's becoming
black by osmosis.
Oh man! And Walter makes the mistake of
demanding,
of using the word forbid.
Yes.
He forbids
Maude to get involved.
He forbids
Maude
forbids her
to meddle. He forbids Maude to meddle.
Yeah, and Florida tells her, "Welcome to the Dark Ages."
Nothing racially intended.
Yes, but you don't.
And that's when we break.
I mean,
number one, you never forbid another person from doing something.
Yeah.
I mean, especially if it's like, I would never forbid my partner to do anything unless I personally felt that it was a detriment to my partner.
Right.
But even then, I would be like, it's not. If my partner wants to do something stupid, my partner's going to do something stupid. I'm just going to be there, sharpening my nails, being like, I'm not saying I told you so. You know what I'm going to say anyway.
Very true.
And that's when we cut to commercial break.
And we come back.
When we come back,
the kitchen.
The girls are discussing.
Maude, Carol, and Florida are
discussing
at the kitchen table.
Yes, they're at the kitchen table.
Discussing Joe Namath.
We think they're
Merv
discussing
Morris. Something about sports.
Oh, what was
something with a G.
Doug something or other.
Something.
But these are all pro ball players, pro football players. And Maude stops everybody and says, no, I know without a shadow of a doubt that Joe Namath has the cuter rear end than either Merv Morris
or the other
one, whose name escapes me.
Yes, and I agree with her.
Same.
I agree with her on that point. Well, I feel like this is counterpoint. So they're celebrating their womancipation.
Emancipation Proclamation.
Emancipation Proclamation, yes. Oh, we have to point out they're drinking. I don't know if it was wine or champagne.
Something. They were drinking something.
It looked like
they
champagne.
were toasting. They were toasting
Yes.
to their emancipation.
And they were. I think they were a little bit toasted.
A little bit.
Yes.
A little bit schnockered.
Yes. And Carol's she starts to leave because she's getting ready for a date.
Yes.
But she says that she thinks that women bring it on themselves sometimes, but she didn't really go into detail.
Because the writers knew better.
You think?
Oh, definitely. They only wanted to have so many arguments in this.
I guess so.
But because the name of the episode is literally called Florida's Problem, I think the writers wanted to focus more on Florida's problems.
Yes.
And Florida even goes on to say that she's a double yoke.
Mm-hmm.
Because she's not only put down by white people, she's also
put down because
by
of
men.
her race, but also put down
because of her sex.
Yeah. Very true.
Like she said, never heard of Sanford and daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Just son.
Right.
And then Maude goes on to say, Mother Nature, thank God she's a woman.
Right.
She probably gave all those men bald spots as punishment.
That's why they have the bald spot as punishment, which I don't know. I don't understand because, why did I get one?
Because you're still a man, dear.
I'm still a man. Sometimes.
Only some before the makeup comes on.
But
that's why we were honestly when my hairline started to recede and started to go the way of the dodo, I was destroyed.
Well, you were very young. Right?
My hairline started to recede when I was 26, 27.
Yeah, that's very young.
I
mean, for me, it didn't start till my 50s.
Well, aren't you lucky?
I know.
I am not the fortunate one.
I know.
But, as I got older, I noticed it's easier to put on wigs. It's easier to dress up as Batman and Catwoman because I don't have to worry about my hair having to be put in some type of net. And it's, it's easier to do the things that I do. It's easier to do drag when you are bald. It's easier to... I will say this, though. Mm-hmm. I will never shave my eyebrows.
No, me either.
I will never, ever shave my eyebrows.
I mean, I've had people suggest to me, why don't you just shave them off? It's so much easier to do drag. And I'm like, no, because when I'm not in drag, I want to be a man, and I don't want to look like a mutant without any eyebrows.
I don't want to look like a drowned, harassed rat.
And I know there's some professional drag queens that as boys they'll draw the eyebrows on, but it looks weird. Sorry, to me it looks weird.
I mean, I don't discriminate. If you want, you do what's best for you.
I feel on me, I would not like to look in the mirror and see myself either without eyebrows or as a boy with like drawn on. I'm like, no,
I get that.
I've got the gluing down of the brows down to a science now, so it's fine. I don't worry about it.
But yeah,
although I am finally going to see my esthetician on Wednesday, and we're getting plucked and waxed.
Oh, good.
I'm like.
So you'll start looking human again.
I'm insisting. I told her. I said. I was like, honey, I've got like 2 woolly caterpillars above my eyes.
Yesterday, I was going through my memories on Facebook, and I posted 3 pictures of myself, and I called them the 3 faces of Eve. There was one picture where I had the beard and these really bushy eyebrows. Uh-huh. And then in the second picture was the beard, but my eyebrows were tweezed. Mm-hmm. So I looked like I had human face up here, not down here. I look like a fabulous caveman.
Oh, fabulous.
And then in the third picture was shaven face, tweezed eyebrows, and I looked like myself. Mm-hmm. Because when I don't look like myself, I sometimes get worried. Mm-hmm. Because there was a point in time when, like, if I didn't tweeze my eyebrows or shave my face, like, I felt like there was something wrong with me.
Oh, why?
Mental health.
Oh, okay.
Just mental health. I usually tweeze my eyebrows in order to, like, make myself look human. I shave to make myself feel human. Mm-hmm. Because, when I look in the mirror and I look at the north, I'm like, oh, Grizzly Adams, how do you do?
How do you do?
And then I have to do a wellness check with myself, and I'm like, are we okay? Do we need to have another conversation with our therapist?
Now, speaking about hairlines, I have friends, in my age group,
friends of Dorothy,
they're wearing hair pieces and toupees and things like that. personally, I'm like, I can't be bothered. I'm like, you know what? If it goes, it goes.
Yeah.
I'll just deal with it.
Accept it gracefully.
Yeah.
I did not handle it gracefully.
Wow.
It was after my cousin. It was for my cousin's wedding,
Mhm.
and I went to my mother and I'm like, I just need a trim, please. I just need a trim. I do not want you to cut it so close. She cut my hair. My mother cut my hair real short, and I was at the time I was used to doing I was used to having my hair slick on the sides and like crazy everywhere else. You know, like Ursula.
Right.
And when my mother cut my hair, she cut it real short. And that was the beginning of the end for me. I'm like, well, we're just going to have to accept it. And then my hair started growing more. And I'm like, this just doesn't. So I took the buzzer and I went to town. And as soon as I posted the picture of me, like, bald as a baby, my friends were like, it looks so good on you. Why didn't you do this sooner? And I'm like, Are you trying to make me feel better by this awful decision because my genetics decided to say, hey, go F yourself? So,
well.
I have to thank my mother for many things. My personality, my mouth, and her father's hairline.
But you would never consider, like, wearing a piece, would you?
I would.
You would?
I would definitely. I mean, I would not wear brown hair. I would not wear black hair. I would wear one of my wigs. Because I always told myself, like, as I got older, if it reached that point, I would do one of two things. I would wear turbans, or I would wear my gray hair. I'd wear my B. Arthur hair.
Oh, okay.
All right. Of course, I would have to wait until both of my parents are dead. Because if my family caught me in anything, there was... Oh, my God. Anecdotal and tangential, I know. I'm so sorry that we're, like, detracting. But I was in a theater class. And we were doing hair. At that point, we were doing hair. And one of my heroes was Grandpa Munster. So what I did was, because I had hair then, I split my hair with gel.
Right.
And then I like made the sides all crazy and whatnot. And I took Ben Nye's Snow White hair cream or hair liquid. And I did that on my hair.
Right.
And then I went home. Because after makeup class, I'd go home. I'd take the train and go home.
Okay.
My father was furious.
Oh, really?
Furious. He comes inside and he goes, his hair is purple! I'm like, my hair is gray. My hair is not purple. My father is one of those people, he was fit to be tied because my mother bought the wrong dye and his hair was a dark brownish purple.
Oh, Lord.
And he was none too pleased about that.
So,
just... Anecdotal and tangential.
Right.
I am so sorry. That's our hairline story.
Our hairline story.
So bald spot.
Bald spot. Yes. Apparently touchy subject for us.
Very touchy subject.
Oh well, forgive us. So Walter, I think that they hear Walter come in.
They hear Walter come in. I also have written down men always are the ones that pass out cigars at the birth of their child.
Yes.
No one ever gives the mother a compliment. It's always congratulations to the father.
Right.
And the mom's like, good job. Here's a baby.
Yeah.
Not like, wow, you endured this laborious thing that happened to your body.
Yes.
Just
but the dad gets all the credit.
Yep.
Yes.
So Walter and Walter and James, or just Walter comes home?
Walter first. Maude goes out to see him,
and then Walter
goes to give her a kiss,
and then Maude is just stone-faced.
Yeah.
Walter gives her another kiss, stone-faced. At that point, Walter grabs her from behind and pulls her in for a passionate kiss, and Maude is again stone-faced and Walter says, your lips feel like day-old
liver lips.
And then Maude says, I'm so sorry that day-old liver lips aren't good enough for you.
Right. She's still mad about the fight this morning.
Very much still mad about the fight.
And Walter's insisting that he was trying to protect her from herself.
Yes. Which... I mean, on the one hand, I get it because Maude does have a tendency to put her foot in her mouth.
Right.
I think the writers intended that to be the case.
Yes, or being a Badinsky.
Yes.
Which,
One thing I would love to see, I would have loved to have seen B. Arthur play Dolly Levi. I think she would have been fabulous as Dolly Levi.
She would have.
So,
So Maude is insisting that she wants Florida to stay.
Yep.
Walter's, he's shouting... He wants his dinner.
I actually have written before that I have a charge in Reno.
What was that?
She mentions that I'm going to have whatever Walter said painted on a tie that she'll buy from this cute little place in Reno.
Mm-hmm.
And she says I have a charge there.
Oh,
I don't know if you know this.
What?
Years ago, Reno was the place women would go to get quickie divorces.
Oh, okay. Yes.
So because Maude had 3 previous divorces, that's where she would go. She would go to Reno. And that was what the joke was for.
Gotcha.
Florida's going to stay here until she's fixed her problem with Henry.
Right.
And then what's for dinner?
Yes. And then she gets all sweet,
domestic goddess,
lovely, and she's telling Walter, oh, he has a choice for dinner. What was it? It was
chicken or roast beef.
Or roast beef.
And then Walter's so smug.
Yeah.
He says, I'll have the chicken.
Oh, the chicken.
So Maude goes into the kitchen to get his dinner prepared.
And it's basically
Walter throws an ice cube into his glass and goes, one for our side.
Right.
It's like, that's what you think.
Maude comes sashaying out and plops a frozen TV dinner on the bar.
Whacks the frozen TV dinner on the bar table.
Yes.
And he goes, Maude, this is a frozen dinner. This is frozen chicken. She goes, if you think that's a frozen chicken, wait till you find out what's under the covers tonight.
Yeah, and she goes back into the kitchen. I think she grabs Florida's cigarette, and she's taking a drag.
Puffing on it.
Yes. That's when the
doorbell rings.
It's Henry coming back.
He barks. I literally have Henry barks for Florida.
Yes.
Because I think Walter was like, Florida's in the kitchen with Maude.
Yeah. Henry's like saying to Florida, you don't mind that, that I won her home, and Walter was like,
Henry, not Florida.
Oh, Florida.
It's okay.
No, yes, Henry wants Florida
home.
Yes, it's the same as when I confuse
Walter and Arthur.
So Henry wants Florida home, and he's asking Walter, he's like, you don't mind? And Walter's like, no, absolutely not. It's like, they're like, we're the men.
Yeah, yes. That's exactly what happened.
We're the men.
So
fire good. Very, primitive caveman-esque.
Yes,
they were gonna
very much
drag the woman by the hair back to the cave, and they're gonna tidy up the cave and kill the animal and prepare it over the open flame.
We love a male chauvinist thing.
We do.
So Maude enters saying, well, Mr. Evans, so good to see you. And she proceeds to attempt Maude says, Florida is in the kitchen smoking.
Yes.
Because Henry led her to smoke.
Right.
So Henry, in his infinite wisdom, says, well, drag her butt out here.
Yes.
And Henry laughs, and Walter laughs, and Maude doesn't.
No.
She
goes back into the kitchen.
I want to say gutter humor titillates you both, doesn't it?
Yes. And she goes back in the kitchen for
2 seconds.
A millisecond.
Then comes
spins back out. And she says...
She basically says...
Florida said to bug off.
She requests instead that you bug off.
Yes, that you bug off. And she goes back into the kitchen. I think.
No, she doesn't go back into the kitchen.
So I'm reading that wrong.
Walter
demands that she stay out of it again.
Yeah.
And she compares him to King Kong.
Walter, the last king in this country was Kong, and he was shot off the Empire State Building for being less of a drag than you are.
Yeah. And he was better looking.
That's right.
And he was better looking. Yes. That's when Florida now comes out of the kitchen. And she's telling Henry that he needs to apologize to her.
Yeah.
And he's telling
He's saying I should go upside your head.
Mm-hmm.
Which was, 1970s speak for beating the wife, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, were you ever hit upside the head?
No.
Oh, I was.
Oh, you were?
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Yikes.
Oh, yeah, I used to get that. I used to get the wooden spoon. I used to get the shoehorn.
My mother just had to give me a look.
I should have been so fortunate.
Yes, you should.
Although I will say this, there are times when someone will get on my nerves and then I'll shoot them a glare. Mm-hmm. And then they'll know.
Yes.
They'll know. I have written down he means possession.
Yes, possessions. I have that written too.
So
about Florida is pointing out that people aren't possessions.
Yeah,
Henry is treating her
as a possession. And then Walter comes in saying, "Maude, you've always told me you wanted to be possessed."
Yes.
To which Maude came back with, "Walter, I never said that standing up, and you know that."
That's right. So big difference.
So there's a big argument between all three of them, I should say. It's Walter, Maude, and Florida, because Walter's saying, "Florida, you're fired."
Yes.
Henry's all happy about it.
And Maude
says, "Nope, you're hired with
a raise." There's stuff about women's rights. Then the men start in about what about men?
Well, that's
men's
just it.
rights?
Florida's it's not a question of race; it's a question of being a woman and a woman's rights.
Right.
And then Florida, Henry and Walter go back and forth saying, well, what about men's rights?
Yes.
No one ever asks anything about men. And then they have their buddy-buddy moment.
Yes, and Maude says they're like two peas in a pod, and
Florida says one of them black-eyed.
One of those black-eyed peas. Black-eyed pea. Yes.
I think one of my personal favorite lines was when Florida said, "Unemployment's not going to believe this."
Right.
Because they're constantly going back and forth between hiring and firing.
Walter's he's going to solve the problem because he fires Florida, and Henry's like, "Yes." And Maude is like, "No, you're hired." And Walter's like, "No, you're fired. You're fired. And
so then Henry finally breaks the silence, not the silence, but breaks the argument by saying it's white women who cause a lot of the issues because they sit in their ivory towers and they're talking about women's rights. Mm-hmm. And then he says, "Well, I'm ebony."
And they should be thankful for what they have. They should be thankful
for what they have, of course.
Yeah, is what he's saying. And it's a very dramatic point.
Very dramatic point in the episode. He says, "I'm ebony. I have a job." That's literally what it says. I got a job because now he's working two jobs and he does not want to see his wife working in a white home.
Right.
And does not want his wife working. Period.
Right. And Florida.
Well, wait. There is a pause.
There's a pause.
And Walter and Maude are exchanging knowing glances. Like, well, wait a minute. He has a point.
Right.
And Florida just says, wait. Don't be bought into that.
She says it's jive.
Exactly. Don't believe that jive
talk. Don't believe that jive talk. Yes.
And Maude's like, well, what are you talking about? Florida, he's black.
Yeah.
And Florida says, well, what do you think I am, suntanned? And Henry tries to explain himself, and Florida cuts him off completely.
Right.
Because now it's Florida's turn to speak.
Yes, now it's Florida's turn.
And she goes, "You hurt because of your pride, and I love
your male ego."
Male ego.
Yes, that's what it's all.
It's all about male ego.
And she proceeds to tell him that
women have worked in white kitchens for years.
Like
his mother
was a maid.
I think his grandmother or her grandmother was also a maid.
Yes,
So there are...
But there were many people in both their families that worked as maids for the betterment of their families. And it was respectable.
Yep.
It wasn't something to be looked
I think the last thing she says in that monologue, I should post that to TikTok because it's a very, very prominent, good monologue.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
The last thing she says is, "You be proud of them because they was all black women,
right? And
I tell you, there ain't never been a better woman than that,
right? And by virtue of that, he also needs to be proud of her.
Yeah,
is because she's saying he needs to be proud of her too. If he's proud of them, which he should be, he should also be proud of her.
Which, it's about communication and reciprocity.
Right.
Like, if a woman is going to go out and get a job for the betterment of her family, mm-hmm. what does it matter?
Right.
What that occupation is.
Right. And, we never discussed that Florida's concern was also for Henry because he was already working a full-time job as a fireman. And he was moonlighting as a cab driver.
So not only, if I had to take a stab in the dark, I would say his fireman job is, I would guess, a 9 to 5.
Right.
and then working nights as a cab driver, you're not getting any sleep. Right. You're going to make yourself sick.
You know, she was concerned about him because, as you know, he needed to, you know, it's too much for one person.
Yes.
You know, so that was also her concern.
So, at that point, Henry kisses her on the cheek, and the two of them sort of reconcile.
Yes.
They reconcile in the house. And towards the end, Florida says, "I'm gonna hold up this match," and they have the back and forth. But before, I think even there was only a moment where she just said, "I'm gonna hold up this match," and Henry just grabs her and they're whisked away.
Yes.
Florida says, "I'm gonna be home tomorrow."
She said, "We're going home, Mrs. Finley. I'll be back. in the morning."
Tomorrow.
Yes.
And then as they leave, Walter says something. I don't know what he says. But I know that Maude.
I think it was something about he was saying something to Walter. Walter was saying something to Maude about her learning a lesson.
Yeah,
and she's like, "Yeah, you're
regardless of race, color, or creed, you're all a bunch of male chauvinist pigs."
And then they kiss.
And then we have the epilogue
in the kitchen. Florida's singing, so we know.
Oh,
she's
what
happy.
A beautiful morning! Oh, what a beautiful day! What musical was that from?
Oh God, I don't remember.
South Pacific, maybe.
Was it?
I don't know. I'd have to look that up.
Been. Another thing to look up.
I'm sure it was a Rodgers and Hammerstein.
Yeah. And Maude comes in and she's happy too.
They're both happy as larks.
They're
both happy as larks.
Yes.
And then we find out that Maude and Walter had one of the great reconciliations because it was all about reconciling.
And reconciliation is another euphemism.
Yes, we love euphemisms.
We love euphemisms.
And then Florida says, "Well, with me and Henry, you can keep your reconciliation. With me and Henry, it's forgive and forget.
Forgive and forget.
And last night we had a forgive and I'll never forget.
Right. Another euphemism.
They both had sex.
Yes.
Mazel tov all around.
Oh, so
A+ to the group.
Yes.
And that is where the episode ends.
Yes, and all in all, it was a great episode.
Very well written episode for 1973.
Yes.
Uh-oh.
Yes. Don't worry about that.
All right, we're not worrying about it.
Pay no attention to that.
Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain. Oh my goodness. Well, we hope you enjoyed this episode of God'll Get You for That, Walter. If you would like to follow us, you can on Instagram at Findlays Friendly Appliances. You can email us at findlaysfriendlyappliances@gmail.com. If you would like to listen to us, you can on God'll Get You for That, Walter on YouTube.
Yes.
If you would like to follow...
Which is also the same name as our Facebook page.
Yes, which is also the same name as our Facebook page.
God'll Get You for That,
which I've been directing people to in the Golden Girls groups. Hey, if you want to listen more about Maude, you can at this page and listen to us on iHeartRadio and Buzzsprout and
Apple Podcast
and all that fun stuff.
Google and all that stuff.
Is this our 20th episode or is this our 19th?
I think it's I don't know. I lost count.
So did I.
I lost count. I don't know.
So did I.
I don't know which number we're up to.
But if this is our 20th episode, congratulations on making it to our 20th episode.
Yes, if not, then it'll probably be the next one.
Knowing my luck. If you would like to follow me, you can at that TomCat on all forms of social media. That's cat with 2 T's. Please do not spell it with the one, otherwise you're going to be seeing an awful lot of Tom and Jerry.
Oh, no.
Yeah. You know, you take these things in consideration when you give yourself a name, and it's I know what I'm getting myself into. It's fine.
And you don't.
And I don't mind anyway.
And of course, you can always follow me at ToniHomeperm.com.
That's Tony with an I.
Tony with an I.
That's Tony with an I. Don't forget that. There's an I, not a Y.
That's right.
But yes, we thank you for listening, and we will talk to you again on another episode of God'll Get You for That, Walter. Night, guys.
Bye-bye.